Imagine for a moment that you are the IT director for a global corporation or a major government agency. Your job is to keep your systems secure, to build high walls, and to monitor the perimeter for any signs of intrusion. You invest millions of dollars in antivirus software, firewalls, and rigorous employee training to prevent phishing attacks. You operate on a foundation of trust. You trust the vendors who provide your enterprise software. You assume that when an official software update arrives, it is legitimate, tested, and safe. The SolarWinds attack shattered that foundation of trust forever. It was a masterclass in supply chain sabotage, a Trojan horse, on a scale that the world had never witnessed, and it redefined what we mean when we talk about digital security. To understand the sheer magnitude of the SolarWinds incident, we have to look at what they were actually targeting. SolarWinds was not some obscure software provider, they were a pillar of the IT management ecosystem. Their product, Orion, was used by thousands of organizations, including the U.S. Treasury, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Energy, and roughly 80% of the Fortune 500, to monitor and manage their internal networks. Orion had deep, privileged access to everything. It was designed to see everything. By compromising this one specific piece of software, the attackers didn't need to break into every target individually. They simply had to compromise the source, and the targets would willingly install the malicious payload themselves. The attack was a marvel of patient, methodical engineering. This was not a smash-and-grab heist, it was a long-term strategic intelligence operation. The threat actors, later identified as the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, did not just hack a server, they managed to infiltrate the internal build environment at SolarWinds. This is the factory, where the software is compiled and packaged. Once inside, they injected a small, insidious piece of code into a legitimate software update. This malicious code, known as Sunburst, was digitally signed by SolarWinds itself. This is the crucial detail that made the attack so devastating. Because the code was signed, every security system on the planet recognized it as authentic. It was the digital equivalent of a spy being issued an official badge, a uniform, and a set of keys, allowing them to walk right through the front door of the most secure facilities in the world. For months, the malicious update sat dormant. It was designed to hide. It waited for 2 weeks before activating, and even then, it only communicated with its command and control servers using a protocol that looked like regular network traffic, specifically mimicking the Orion platform's own communication style. It was invisible to traditional security tools. It was a ghost in the machine. While the industry was busy looking for hackers trying to break into the network, the hackers were already inside, masquerading as the network itself. They weren't stealing credit cards or bank account passwords, they were harvesting high-value intelligence. They were reading emails, mapping out sensitive internal networks, and identifying long-term opportunities for further espionage. The discovery of the breach was almost accidental. It was uncovered not by a government agency or a traditional firewall, but by FireEye, a private cybersecurity firm that noticed something strange on its own network. An employee received an authentication request for a device they didn't own. It was a tiny thread, but when FireEye pulled on it, the entire tapestry of the SolarWinds attack began to unravel. They realized that their own security tools were being compromised by an update they had trusted. The revelation sent shockwaves through the corridors of power in Washington and across the global tech industry. It was an admission that the most powerful entities on Earth had been wide open to a silent, state-sponsored adversary for the better part of a year. The aftermath of the SolarWinds attack forced a total rethink of the software supply chain. Before this, companies were largely focused on perimeter defense, building higher walls to keep the bad guys out. But SolarWinds proved that the walls don't matter if you are inviting the enemy inside through the front gate, disguised as a trusted partner. It led to the adoption of the Zero Trust model, a framework that assumes the network is already compromised. In this new world, you verify every single request, every single process, and every single update, regardless of where it originates. You no longer trust code simply because it carries a digital signature from a vendor you recognize. You demand a software bill of materials, a detailed inventory of every component that makes up a piece of software, so you can trace it back to its origin. The legacy of the SolarWinds attack is a lingering, pervasive sense of vulnerability. It exposed the reality that our modern, hyper-connected world relies on a relatively small number of widely used software platforms. It demonstrated that we have effectively outsourced our national security to third-party vendors who, despite their best efforts, can be outmaneuvered by sophisticated, state-sponsored actors. The supply chain has become the primary battleground. It is no longer just about the software you build, it is about the entire ecosystem of code you ingest. Every library, every plugin, and every update is a potential vector for catastrophic compromise. As we move further into this era, the SolarWinds incident serves as a grim cautionary tale. It highlighted the terrifying effectiveness of a patient, well-resourced adversary who understands that the weakest link in the security chain is often the human assumption of reliability. We are now living in a reality where the most dangerous threats are not the ones that come from the outside, but the ones that are embedded in the tools we use to protect ourselves. It is a paradox that defines modern cybersecurity. In our quest to build systems that manage and monitor our world,